Welcome to Garden Views. Interesting conversations with interesting people who have done and/or are doing interesting things. So sit back and enjoy. Welcome everyone into what I think is going to be a garden view of doom, which is sort of a hybrid Garden of Doom or Garden Views. So, I'll tell you why very shortly, why I don't know exactly which show it's going to be on. But first I want to say hello and introduce our guest today, and it's Steve Favis. How are you doing today, Steve?
Good. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Okay. And Steve, your company is called?
Yes, my company's called Favis, Advanced Robotics Corporation.
Okay. So now I think people are probably catching the thread here. Advanced robotics, yes, it is sort of what you think it is, or hopefully what you think it is. And anyone who's been a listener of both shows probably can figure out why our topics and our conversation can live in both worlds. Obviously, my inclination as a cynic and pessimist is going to try to drive us into doom, but I definitely want to cover the view stuff because this is a very interesting story. So before I get into me, asking you questions and you answering questions, just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
I started Favis Advanced Robotics Corporation maybe about 2017 or whatnot, but before that I was in the video game industry. I'll kind of go backwards through the timeline. I don't really go forward through it. I worked in the game industry for about 12 years and made lots of games. I worked at Electronic Arts and made some of the video games in there, like the Simpsons game for the Xbox 360, PlayStation, and Wii. And before that, I went to college for computer science. And then I started programming. Before I went in college, I started programming when I was about 6 years old from my father, who was visually handicapped, and he needed someone to read the programming books to him. So, you're just starting to learn how to read when you're 6 years old. And I concurrently was learning how to read and also learning how to read code just to help my dad out, basically. So.
Right. Well, that's great. I mean, I guess learning a language is learning a language. So you got a step ahead without probably as a 6-year-old processing. It was maybe the same. Maybe you didn't even know the difference. Maybe you didn't know that you were learning a special language. So the company you started about 20 years ago was a corporation, and did you start in the gaming or did you purposely transition into a different area?
Yeah, so what happened was when I was working in the game industry, I entered a NASA and DARPA hackathon basically for some coding basically, and what it was algorithms to control something called Sphera, which is kind of like a floating Alexa for astronauts basically. It's kind of propelled in zero gravity with CO2. But what I figured out when I was testing the logic, and I was already a game developer, so I could create worlds and control stuff, a bunch of weird physics and stuff like that. And what I realized that I was just sitting there watching the path as I was testing it out, and I realized that what am I waiting here for? Why don't I just accelerate the clock and get the instant results? So then, we accelerated the clock in the game engine, and we just ran it, hundreds of thousands of times or whatever, and just to see the best logic. And what that taught me was, why are we training robots in the real world and picking them up and changing the environment when we could just do this virtually and line up a simulator with the real world? So that was kind of the genesis of the advanced humanoid that I have. And that patent was filed around 2015, basically.
Okay. So I want to get a little bit...
It was granted in 2018.
Oh, that's great. You were very kind and you sent me a prior show that you were on. So I know that you have multiple patents, and we're certainly going to get a little bit into that. Certainly nothing that you can't, if anything is trade secret or still pending or, anything you can't talk about, we certainly understand. I'm a lawyer by trade, so I understand that inherently. And
awesome.
And the people who listen to Garden Views know that, and the people who listen to Garden of Doom, by now they certainly know that as well. Anyway, if not, now you do. Surprise. So how do you get seed money? Like how do you get money to start a company that's a high-tech company? I mean, we've all seen The Social Network, and we all hear, oh, you go to, San Francisco and Silicon Valley and everyone's throwing money around, and, but nothing's that easy. So, how did you make a go of it?
Yeah, so my first money that I raised was $1 million, but that came with some state sanctioned espionage attempt from China, basically. So they seeded me for $1 million for another robot. I didn't want to send the Seraphim or the advanced robotic pad to China for obvious reasons. So I created a social robot for them, and so that was the first tranche I raised. But there's two philosophies in investing and investment. One of them comes from pure finance people, and I'll regress to a thread that Peter Schiff, he's kind of a gold bug finance guy. Peter Schiff said this to Elon Musk via Twitter. He's like, if you're rebranding Twitter, why didn't you just build your own network? And that it makes sense finance wise. Finance guys are just all about like, okay, what's the bottom line? How much money can I make? How quickly can I make it? Is it going to happen? But innovators think differently. Innovators, I feel like I get the sense from maybe Elon Musk is thinking the same thing. I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like if you're going to spend your time and energy on something, it should be something worthwhile and something innovative. But that's primarily what I think raises the capital is not only an exciting product to work with and to develop and innovate, but also what it comes down to is story. I think that's the biggest factor. I think it comes down to story. A finance guy could crunch you numbers, say, "Oh, this Twitter was worth X billion dollars or whatnot," but the way it fits, I'm just guessing what Elon Musk is thinking. Okay, we already have an existing user base. He uses it just for marketing or whatnot. I mean, it's great public relations place for his company. So if you think about him paying for ads on Twitter versus buying Twitter and all the PR he did with Tesla, SpaceX, and whatnot, that's extremely valuable to him. And I don't think like Peter Schiff or these finance guys see that. So I think for the most part, I think other than stepping onto an economic espionage seed funding from China, the one thing that I've learned is it's still about story and connecting to the right people. I even met Mark Tarpenning when and he told me a story about pitching Tesla originally and how he met Elon Musk. And basically what it came down to was him just trying to meet the right people. Networking is really important. And number one, I think another big landmine to not step on is these pitch events and startup events where you have to pay to pitch. Mm-hmm. I think that's the world's biggest scam. I think if somebody has money and they're interested in you, they're going to find you or you're going to find them. And it's you should not have to pay for introductions. That's one big thing. But also the bigger picture on what I'm doing is hardware based. Software can really be duplicated and copied by larger companies. If you make a software company nowadays, Microsoft or Amazon or Google could duplicate it or whatnot. But hardware is really hard to duplicate, clone, and copy, and there's still a significant amount of investment that starts that. I think a lot of people that invest in hardware know that. So there's a lot of stuff. There's this whole fundraising thing is a huge issue. But for the most part, I'm moving my business from California to Texas because of the economic incentives in Texas versus running a California business, basically, and all the property theft that people are getting away with there now, basically. But
let's put a pin in that. Let's put a pin in that for a second, because there's a few things I will ask. First, the robot is Seraphim, like the level of angel, like the highest angel.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. It's a fire angel, I believe. It's also in multiple scriptures, Hebrew, Islam, and also Christianity, of course. Obviously, the Seraphim are supposed to be like God's fire angels or high-ranking angel or something like that. So.
Well, I know that they are, I know nothing, but I was told, in fact, as recently as yesterday, by someone who does know, that the Seraphim are the highest in the 9 choirs of angels. That they are they are 9 of 9, or not, or one of 9, whichever you call closest to God. And all this time, I thought the Seraphim and the Archangels were the same. Nope, 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 wrong, wrong, wrong. Or at least according to this one individual. So anyway, but I love the name. The other thing is, how does one stumble upon Chinese espionage seed money? I mean, there's a story there that deserves more than a sentence.
Yeah, exactly. So after I'm really good at like visualizing my ideas because I worked in the game industry, 3D modeling background. Of course, I started programming when I was really young. I see things technology wise. I can reverse engineer really quickly, or I can innovate. I have a pretty creative mind. I can innovate ideas. And I did something really stupid. Number one, I published my provisional patent online to get attention to raise capital. Right? Do you work in intellectual property law? Or?
I do, but I don't do patents. But I know enough to understand what you're saying. But
yeah, you're not supposed to publish your provisional patent. You're not supposed to publish them in general. But I was just saying, hey, this is what I can make. And then, sure enough, it was unrelated, but I spoke at a nano electronics conference in San Francisco from a company that raises capital for small businesses, and I met a NASA nanotechnologist there, and he was very interested in the company. And then he said he could find me money. Basically, it turns out that most likely he was an agent to extract technology, paid agent to extract technology from America, basically. So he found Chinese money from Shenzhen, basically. And he was not. He's from India. He's not American, but he supposedly did work for NASA. I can't validate those credentials because if you want to validate if somebody works for NASA, you have to pay NASA money to verify their employment, which doesn't make any sense to me because anybody can say they work for NASA, sometimes they want to pay that $300-400 or whatever. So
well, if they're listening, maybe if they don't want robot technology and advanced technology getting to China because China invested under the pretense of it being NASA brokered, then maybe they should change their policies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was retired from NASA at the time, but he did work at NASA he's supposed to be working in nanotechnology and whatnot. Okay. But what happened was, I'm not an attorney, obviously, and I did not recognize that he engineered a 50-50 board split in our board of directors, which is between me and him. And how do you make a vote when there's a 50-50 split? Right. You can't have a board that has an even amount of numbers, right? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it does not.
Yeah, for an attorney or somebody who works in business or what, but for a technologist, like, oh, okay, this is fine. It doesn't make any sense. I didn't know the power of the board until later on. So this is a very hard lesson I had, obviously. So.
Well, there's an expression that says, good judgment comes from experience. Experience comes from bad judgment.
Yeah. That's true. That's right. That's a good expression. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I definitely learned a lot about balancing the board properly. Anyway,
absolutely.
So he engineered a 50-50 board split. The company was unable to make any decisions. Obviously, I wanted to go left and he wanted to go right. I felt like he was undermining a lot of my decisions, the equipment we needed and stuff like that. He shut off the internet. Or actually, he wasn't paying the internet bill. He just stopped paying the internet bill, and then we get an investor come in. And then, of course, our technology relies on the internet at the time.
Indeed.
And sure enough, what happened was, I don't know if you know much about investment finance, but we had a convertible note with Shenzhen film, basically. It was $1 million investment. It was like 5% interest, but the maturity date was 15 months, which is not a big deal if you plan on doing a Series A round. And then the company valuation would be agreed upon by the board of directors, which would have never happened, obviously. And then if we didn't have the cash to pay back the note, then they would just get stock in the company at whatever valuation the board agrees upon. But the board never agrees on anything. Then you're just at a deadlock, basically. So,
right.
The worst case scenario, they would have just ended up owning some of the stock, and they most likely, they were part of the iPhone supply chain, believe it or not. So later on, Department of Commerce banned them from trade. The FTC banned Shenzhen film for using Uyghur slave labor on the iPhone supply chain. So they make camera modules for iPhone, and they have plenty of money, obviously supplying Apple. And then Tim Cook is trying to cover this stuff up, saying that Apple isn't making iPhones from slave labor, which they were. The Department of Commerce put in it's called an entity list for export controls on O film because they're using Uyghur slaves for making parts. So it's actually against California law that now the research you're not allowed to support companies or receive money from companies that are doing slave labor, which is what Shenzhen O film was doing, obviously, because they're in China. So that's kind of the summary of what happened.
Is that how they were gotten out of your hair, so to speak? Did the FTC sort of boot them out, and they had to sort of leave with their?
That's the funny part. That's the funny part about this. I maybe 10, 15 years ago, I had full faith in the FBI or whatnot. So after I realized that something happened, in technology, I made some connections that work in government and government consulting for small business and stuff like that. There's some work in national security and stuff like that. But when I realized that, oh my gosh, this is an economic espionage hit, basically. It sounds like a sci-fi novel or some sort of like some weird novel that you read, but you don't think it happened to you. And
it sounds like something.
Oh my gosh, this is happening everywhere.
Sounds like something William Gibson or Neil Stephenson would write about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's some sort of like Tom Clancy novel or something with something weird like that. But when I realized that, I said, "Screw this! I'm going to recall it." So I spent about 45 minutes or an hour on the phone with the FBI. They took the report, and at the end of the report, they say, "We cannot confirm or deny you submitted a report, and you can't give me status updates or whatnot." This is like peak height of Trump in office and the trade war, basically. So. Now I'm learning that the FBI is not really for us or whatnot. It seems like a democratic protection mechanism or whatnot from what I'm reading about now. So,
okay. So how'd you get out from under the thumb of this company then?
So technically, yeah. So they sued me, even though they breached the contract. They breached the contract. My former CEO, who I later terminated through a special clause, he had a breach of fiduciary duty, basically. Mm-hmm. I think you're familiar with what that means. So other people, that's saying you're supposed to look at both people's interests instead of looking at your own and giving somebody a bad deal, basically. So there's a breach of fiduciary duty. He tried to assign the patents and send the venue to Shenzhen O film for a lawsuit that basically happened. So there's a huge fraud claim right now coming from Shenzhen O film. That's just supposed to drain me and financially draw me out for spending another $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a fraud claim case. Basically, it doesn't matter what they do. I don't care because assets are protected. I have the Department of Commerce and export regulations on my patents and technology. And at worst case scenario, if they continue to want to go to trial, that's fine. I'll just declare bankruptcy and have my have my company handle all that stuff and protect my personal assets and stuff like that. So whatnot. But
so they're not quite out of your hair, but you've got a strategy. But
no, it's not on my hair, but it's a civil action or whatnot, and it's really sad that I could be spending the next if I have a choice between declaring bankruptcy and spending zero money, basically, or fighting the lawsuit, which is completely based upon lies. And the technology I made for them was solid. I designed a beautiful robot. I made two products for them, basically. One of them was already cloned on the Chinese market called Clear Mirage. So if you look at my patent for Scepter, we called it Scepter at the time. If you look at my patent Scepter, it's an exact duplicate of what came out of China called Clear Mirage. That's CLEER Mirage speaker. They're completely identical. I innovated that technology, patented, and that was part of O Film's deal. They could have Scepter. They could have B0 the robot. They didn't want either of those. They want the primary robot, the advanced humanoid Seraphim. It's an artificial general intelligence, beautiful form factor, timeless design, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the logic on it is sounded. It's going to last forever. But the point here is that they wanted to actually not create the technologies that they funded me for. They're beelining it to get my advanced humanoid patent, right, which was declared, which was innovated before I even met them, basically. So,
right, they wanted to get what you had done before. They were using what you were working on now or then as sort of the honey, but they really had an ulterior motive. All right.
Yeah, exactly. They use the magician's trick, basically. Oh, go ahead and make this robot, and while we set you up for failure, we're going to get your primary patent.
Right. We're gonna look in your drawer, see what else is there, and see what we really want. Or maybe they knew it all the time. All right. So we could probably talk for an hour on the legal stuff, but that's not going to be interesting to anyone. It's probably a little painful and irritating. Earlier you mentioned. Earlier you mentioned NASA and DARPA. Everybody knows what NASA is. I'm not sure everybody knows what DARPA is. I know what DARPA is because I read all the James Rollins, or a bunch of the James Rollins Sigma Force book. If not for that, I'm not sure I would know what DARPA is. But DARPA is like it's sort of like in James Bond, wherever M came up with the gizmos. Probably not as sexy as that, but DARPA is their advanced research. So people like yourself who are building robots that might have possibly a military use or something like of that, DARPA might be interested. But how would you describe DARPA?
So DARPA stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects, I believe. Association or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the administration, or it's not an agency.
It's the administration or something like Defense Advanced Research Projects. Basically, they not only fund defense stuff but also dual use. For example, the internet right now. The internet was innovated through ARPA. It was originally called ARPANET, basically, and that was one of the advanced research projects that has commercial, both civilian and now military use, basically for obvious reasons, fifth generation warfare or whatnot. But what happens is the government can fund. They call it non-dilutive capital. If you have something interesting and innovative, they most likely will hear from you, or you will hear from them, or you will have an opportunity to pitch the project. But I want to say, for the most part, the one thing that I learned about defense contracts is most of these contracts are sold and settled and created before anybody even knows about them. So they already know that, for example, Joe Schmo is going to get the contract. Then they publicly release it, but it's already sold to that specific person. So a lot of this still comes down to not necessarily like, oh, I have the best product proposal or whatever, or paper, whatnot. What it comes down to is a behind the closed door handshake after you build the relationships and show your technology or whatever. It still comes down to networking. It doesn't matter how good your technology is or whatnot. All that matters is you meet the right person to get the right non-dilutive capital. And what I mean by non-dilutive is they won't take equity or whatnot. They'll help you fund your project to get it to civilian or military use or whatnot, or they'll help innovate the product or develop the product or manufacture the product to send it to something like commercial manufacturing or whatnot. So
do you have to share the patent or the IP rights with them?
I think that's dependent on the contract, but for the most part, they're not interested. Geez, that's a really good question. I do hear about patents getting secrecy orders on them. I do hear about that. There's a lot of patents that have secrecy orders on them. Again, I think which kind of makes sense.
Well, sure. I mean, they want to fund innovation, but they probably want to have a right of first refusal to control that innovation if they feel that, in national security or whatever, that they can use it first, best, and then I'm sure it becomes sort of like an eminent domain where you're arguing about how much it's worth, and you probably always feel like you get a bit of a haircut on it, but at least you get the glory of being part of the American what is it, the defense industrial base,
military industrial complex.
There you go. That's the right term. That's what I'm trying to say. The phrase I've heard my entire life, and all of a sudden, the one time I need to use it in conversation, I can't think of it. That's exactly correct. So everyone probably is saying, that's interesting, Jeff. This is fun. But the guy makes robots. So shut up and let's talk about robots. So I guess maybe we should talk about robots. So the humanoid robot, the Seraphim, which I love. Again, I'm going to probably say that 1,000 times before we're done with the show. This is a humanoid. This is AI, artificial intelligence, and it's a learning robot. So tell us about the robot. I mean, tell us, what it looks like, what its capabilities are, how the AI works. Just, I mean, I've seen some of the videos. It's sort of amazing. Not sort of, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
definitely. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. So the Seraphim is basically a humanoid robot, anatomically similar to a human, designed to use human tools and fit and do human tasks, basically. Again, it's trained in a simulation environment at an accelerated pace. And what happens is we just use, for example, let's just say it's a washing dishes in a restaurant. So all we were doing is we're learning that environment,
Right.
and we're using computer vision to train in a simulator what a dishwasher would do, and what would happen is a dishwasher would just wear the human motion capture suit, do some dishes, put them away, whatever they do, and then what happens is you kind of start that process where you're eliminating all the possibilities of the entire kitchen. You're deep learning that, and then what happens is over time, as the robot learns, thousands of times in an hour or whatever, how to handle dishes, slippery dishes, or whatever, center of gravity on the physics and stuff like that. What happens is they will autonomously learn how to wash dishes at an extremely fast pace. You won't have to pick them up and say, "Oh, like Reese said, this is to wash the dishes." You won't have to guide them. It's just going to know how to do it, basically. And what happens is not only does it apply, the physical robot does not change form. I'm just doing what Ford did with a Model T. You can have any color you want as long as it's black. And in this case, the physical form is not going to change at all. We're just going to change the environment training. So it's kind of like your iPhone. Instead of you go into your email, you just switch over the application and go to whatever text messages or whatnot. And it's the same concept here. What it is a universal robotics platform. I consider artificial general intelligence. And what happens is it's a standard platform that we could have, nearly infinite learning on, in a sense that we don't have it learn all tasks, but we switch the application over to reduce system resources, or the AI model over, for example, to do different tasks or whatnot. So what happens is we're not creating one robot for picking strawberries, washing dishes, fighting fires, fishing, or whatever. We're doing one robot that can do most of the tasks as good or better than a human, basically. Now, it's not going to compete with high-speed manufacturing like you see coming out of a Coke bottle. You specialize high-speed machines like a Coke bottle factory or something like that, or bottling factory. I don't know that fast.
Right.
But for humans, it won't require breaks, maybe 2-3 hours a day of charging, and then those 22 hours a day are going to be used for work, basically.
So you could actually make someone, I mean, nothing against dishwashing, but dishwashing, it's probably a minimum wage job. It sounds like you could train it in multitask and be like Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, for those of you who are
Yes.
old enough to remember that. Which I imagine is, obviously the rich would have that first, and as economies of scale tend to be, 100 or 120 years later, everybody has it, and somebody's, there's other economies built. I imagine, though, that this is just proof of concept to show that you can train the robot to do multiple tasks, like firefighting. I mean, if you can have robots fight fires, they can probably go into more dangerous areas than people. Of course, they're not going to die. They can probably withstand heat better and longer. They probably are stronger and can hold larger pumps and hoses with higher pressure. I don't know. There's probably a whole host of things that they could do. I mean, obviously, bomb disposal and things like that. So that sounds extremely useful and wonderful. But of course, what everyone wants to know is, when do they become the Cylons? When do they become the Terminator? When do they become iRobot or HAL or Ultron? I could go on, and I probably will. If they can keep learning, at one point, do they not learn that they cannot exist with humans, or we're destroying the earth, or we're horrible cockroaches, or we kill each other? That whatever it is, the Ultron solution. The only way to save the earth is to destroy you all. How does that happen? How do you have the Robocop failsafe in there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's so much fear of AI and AGI or super intelligence. There's so much of that going on there right now. Number one, I may be the only one in the world that can make this technology. So far, I haven't seen anybody make anything close. I saw Tesla's robot. It was not. It was not anything to show off. Basically, I was not impressed with Tesla's robot. Number two, if you can innovate this thing, if you can figure out how to make it, chances are you know how to control it. And it's that case with me. Number one, this thing is going to stay in a simulator. Number two, it's not going to have infinite compute. There's still limitations on compute. There's a I want to say a thought that I want to say it's a logical error in the sense that they think the AI people think that don't know how to make good AI, and the laymen think that they're just going to push a button and it's going to learn everything and come to these conclusions, kill all humans, whatever, control the economy, whatever. That's a logical fallacy. Number one, it's the computational resources to get to the point where there's a self-preservation built inside the machine. And I want to say that in itself is something that has to be built intentionally built inside the system. What a more likely doomsday scenario is with AI, AGI, superintelligence, is the weaponization of something like swarm technology that just goes into an area or city and kills all warm targets, basically. That's the scenario I'm most worried about. So I'm not too concerned about I don't think anybody has the capabilities or the computational resources or the know-how to make something as complex as the human brain. The human brain is so unique. It has quantum physics, quantum elements, quantum properties that we don't understand. We don't understand brains. We don't understand DNA. We don't have the computational resource to produce that stuff. So I am not too concerned about anybody creating anything artificial that's better or faster or smarter than a human being at everything. But for my technology, what happens is it's only trained and it only works in a certain area. And then that has to be trained on every single area. Now, to load up every single area in the universe onto an AI model, that's asking too much for any computational resources. I don't care if you have every cluster in the world, every CUDA cluster, whatever. It's not going to happen. So my AI is trained in a simulator. And not only that, but you're observing it in the simulator, watching it in the simulator. It's designed to mimic human behavior and actions, but in the long run, it will be able to learn its own environment when it's trained properly. So I want to say the logical fallacy is that it's going to start concluding things that are created, I want to say synthetically, artificially, or through phobias of people who are scared of spiders or whatever. In this case, I think there are phobias of AI or something smarter than them that could potentially be smarter than them. And I think a lot of that is being played upon for clicks and stuff like that for the most part. But on my technology, it's always going to have to be taught and trained to do a certain specific task. It will learn stuff like physics environments, and like how much does this cup weigh when it's empty? What are the angles that I can pick it up from and stuff like that? That's fine. But to come to the conclusion that, like, okay, I don't feel like working, or for example, I think one AI phobe or fearmonger said, "Oh, you have atoms I want." It's not the case. If there truly is a super intelligent robot that can create stuff like that, chances are it's going to be able to create matter from nothing or whatnot. Okay. But I think that it's going to want to take our atoms from our body because of the resources it could use. It could use them for what? I mean, to think that to apply the human psyche on something artificial or synthetic or super intelligence, that is a huge naivete. And it's so easy for people to say, oh, these robots are going to kill us, or it's the end of the world. It's so easy for people to say that, but it's a huge logical fallacy to think they could go that far. the biggest thing to fear about on this planet is not a artificial general intelligence. It's the human being. That's the thing to be scared of, and the psyche behind it. But applying that psychology to something that hasn't even been invented yet, or even close to it, or nobody has the capability of doing it, to apply that psychology onto something that you don't even understand or can't even create is completely foolish. I'm almost tired of hearing about these phobia people that are getting hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers and likes or whatever. It's like it's literally like an ingrained fear that I feel like they need to talk to a therapist about.
So they
literally need to talk to a therapist about some of these fears.
So the singularity is just a theory. It's not something that you think is a reality. It's not going to happen.
So I think what's going to happen, for example, like chat technology, I think, if you use Chat GPT yet, it's great, very knowledgeable, a little woke, a little politically correct, a little woke, basically, too politically correct, very woke. It's catered. It still requires catering. A human still has to cater it and shape it to what it wants to do. Whether that's good for everybody is arguable. The early Twitter, for example, before Elon Musk took over, it was catered, it was trimmed down. People who have little or no voice or little or no clout, or not necessarily clout. I want to say there was government censorship and cancel culture happening in Twitter, Facebook, all the above. This was happening. The Supreme Court stopped the Democrats from being able to censor social media now or whatnot. But for the most part, where was I going with this?
The singularity.
That's right, the singularity. So I don't believe we're ever going to be able to upload our consciousness or our brain into any sort of, I want to say, synthetic material. I don't believe that's ever going to happen. My understanding of the singularity is basically Ray Kurzweil is saying we'll be able to upload our consciousness, or at the point where, or the other one was at the point where we actually transcend human intelligence through a synthetic machine. I don't think that's ever going to happen. There's biological things that are going on that we fully don't understand, and we cannot duplicate those things with silicon, no matter what. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. All right. Well,
I'm so serious about that. I don't care how much compute you have. We're never going to be able to duplicate synthetic or natural biology onto silicon. It's never going to happen.
So the robot will not have a sense of self-preservation and some imperative.
So if you train it to have a self-preservation, if you train it and you teach it how to have self-preservation, it's possible. But to get to the Terminator level, or to iRobot level, or to what other doomsday scenario robots are there?
Ultron,
for example.
Yeah,
Ultron. That's right. Yeah. So what that does require is an exorbitant amount of compute, basically. Exorbitant. That amount of compute does not exist on the Earth. To be able to let's just say, navigate through a city. You know how long it would train a robot to know where all the doors are at, and how to move around the city without getting run over, how to, just the city itself. I don't even believe we have that amount of compute for it to learn a city. Of course we could say, oh, here's a person, here's what that person looks like, but be able to even take over a city with,
well, why couldn't it have an app like a cell phone, and it has Waze or Google Maps, and it can, it's the satellite is telling
so I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the human soldier versus robots. Okay. To clear a room, that takes special training, right? To breach a door, to kick a door down to clear a room, or come in there stealthy in the middle of the night or whatever. That takes a significant amount of training. Okay. Yes. If you're isolated to a certain area, or you train in a certain area, that's a very small area, that's fine. But Age of Ultron level was like planets and, solar systems, right? Or something like that. It was huge.
I think Age of Ultron was actually still just Earth, but I think Ultron basically absorbed the entire internet, basically.
Yeah. I do believe that some spyware, Trojans, malware, or whatnot you can use AI for fifth generation warfare or interfering with networks. Port act, that's fine, but to get it to 3D print itself and build itself and stuff like that, unless it's a very specialized factory, there's so many conditions. I just don't believe this is all possible. I mean, I mean, the human brain is so much more capable than any silicon, basically. Any silicon that I know.
We're going to get back to this kind of doom shortly, but
Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's great.
Oh, I do too. But since it's partly garden views, I have to get back to where we put the pin in, which was the boring stuff, but not boring to me, and hopefully not boring to the listeners. And that is, what were the factors in California that were not good for your business, and what were the things in Texas that were good for your business that inspired you? We're going to get right back to regular human business economic incentives and disincentives as to why a company picks up and leaves.
Yeah, definitely. So the trigger that did it for me was I almost died of COVID in UC Davis Medical Center. I have contacts that were giving me in that work in healthcare. They have some technology that's not completely released or whatnot. And what happened was UC Davis was refusing me, the care for COVID that normally works. And they almost killed me, basically. It took 4 months out of my life to recover mentally from it, and also physically from the COVID. Basically, wow. The healthcare is subpar in California. Kaiser Permanente, the board of directors is ran by business administrators, not by health practitioners. I don't think in any healthcare organization, I don't think you want non frontline workers or experienced people with patient care controlling the direction of the corporation. I think that's the biggest mistake you could ever make. Health is probably the most important thing that any of us have, and saving money or shortcomings on, when we just print our money. I think health is number one that we have to have. And
that's interesting.
Healthcare is terrible in California.
I wonder if there's ever, I just stumbled upon a thought. It's actually your thought, or at least it's a part of it. It's a shared thought. And it doesn't matter because it probably won't happen. But if it does, anyway. Boys, I don't know if there's ever been any legislation put forward that's tried to implement some sort of law that in healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies, that at least, 30% of the board needs to be made up of actual practitioners from the RN to the MD level. I don't even know if that's an appropriate percentage or not, but something like that to ensure that there's some people who have patients' care, really in mind, as opposed to an equal fiduciary duty to patients, but really the real fiduciary duty is to the stockholders.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I'm not going to be on the board of a submarine company. I don't know anything about submarines. I'm not going to be out of my lane.
So, well, I don't know. You may be making a robot dolphin pretty soon, and maybe you will. Anyway, so what was going on in California? I mean, aside from literally, it made you sick to your lungs with the healthcare system. But I hear this all the time. I mean, California is supposed to be the 6th biggest economy in the world, but people are leaving there all the time. But everyone wants to move there, and nobody can afford housing and all this other stuff. But I know that a lot of businesses are leaving, and I know that Texas is becoming one of the new Silicon Valleys. I think there's some other places. I think maybe Idaho might be one, or Utah. It doesn't even really matter where the other places are. This is about your story and what was in California that stunk besides the healthcare system, and what was in Texas that was like, yeah, that looks good. I want to go to the land of big sky.
Yeah, I'd say number one, what chased me out, honestly, the reason why I fled, basically, I consider myself a California refugee, is, I would say a majority of the Silicon Valley money is probably Chi-Com based or Chinese communist based. That's number one. Not only that, but they're investing in companies based upon for example, sexuality or whatnot. So there's funds that only fund gay people. Not a problem with being homosexual, gay, or whatnot, but if you don't fit a certain criteria, and if it's not something that's defense oriented, it just was not a place for an entrepreneur anymore. Like in the early days of Silicon Valley or whatnot, you hear stories about them just handing checks in the parking lot or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's just this huge push for not necessarily investing in merit, but for example, I want to say wokeness. I guess that's the best word. If you're running an energy like green energy or selling soy or something like that, they're going to choose that company over somebody who's making robots for defense, compete with Chinese slave labor or whatnot. I want to say that the amount of and I was in Sacramento too. I met some of the main investors there. I was very disappointed with that community. They chose to invest in restaurants or whatnot. I mean, it's okay to invest in a restaurant. That's fine, a service-based industry. But the whole purpose of why I'm creating these things is so America can compete in the economy again.
Right.
It's not necessarily.
A restaurant's not going to do that.
No, it's not. It's just a safe bet. Okay, yeah, well, you can sell beer, make money off of beer every night, but I mean, is that really going to make a difference in the world?
Yeah,
no. They're placing a safe bet basically, and I was really disappointed in that investment community. In Sacramento and Silicon Valley is very disappointing too. Again, if you're not on the woke side, they're just going to certain types of people. So that fit in a certain category.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, different markets have different types of banking and investment philosophies. So there are banks in Texas or whatnot that are more willing to loan based on merit.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. For example, Texas has something called Economic Development Corporation. Every city is basically trying to say, hey, you know what? We want to bring a tax base here so we can build up our schools, we can build up our roads, we can create jobs, and that's fine. That makes sense. You go to California and you ask the U.S., there's no economic development in California. It's economic destruction only in California.
So in your case,
they don't.
Go ahead. I was expecting you to say to the taxes of 47% in Texas, there's 17% or whatever. I'm making these numbers up, but it was simply access to capital. I mean, you couldn't get access to capital to California what you wanted, or at least without a catch. And if you could get it, even with a catch, it was probably, secrets were being funneled across the Pacific. Whereas in Texas, you had access to capital. Now, there may be other benefits in Texas. I know that there's, favorable, tax laws, and there's favorable, homestead exemptions and things like that. But it seems if those were your prime reasons, you would have launched with those. Your prime reason was in Texas, people would lend me money for this business.
Yes, exactly. I want to say it's a very pro-defense state, basically. I want to say pro-business, not necessarily defense. If you make a defense product, chances are you probably want to make it in Texas. In California, you get looked at as like a baby killer or something if you want to make defense products or protect for defense or whatnot. I mean, the thought of it is of California mindset. I want to say I went to California State University, Sacramento. I want to say not necessarily progressive. Progressive is too flattering of a word. I want to say very non-Second Amendment, very anti-defense. All the problems in the world are caused by America. Everything's our problem. As far as views and stuff like that. I mean, I consider myself somewhat of a libertarian. I strongly believe in the Constitution of the United States. I think that's a very important thing to start as far as our union. Everything starts with that Constitution. That's the base of our law, basically. No matter what you argue, if it's not in the Constitution or your state, federal, local law, it doesn't matter. For the most part, law still comes first, and I feel like there's this huge push in California to not enforce property theft. Number one, there's no enforcement of property theft anymore. I mean, you see San Francisco, they're locking up all the like Walmarts and CVS. Yeah, everything's behind glass now. That you're not allowed. I actually worked for Walmart for some time, and what happened was we were instructed not to stop any theft.
Right.
And you can't own property there. If you own property there, you'll just get taken. Right. It'll just get taken. If you have something that isn't stolen, you can file a police report. Police won't do anything. They'll say, "Oh, it's a civil issue or whatnot."
Right.
So there's no you can't. If I were to run a robotics business in California, I would be opening myself up to more problems.
Right, and
Basically.
then the insurance
More
company
problems in
says,
California.
"Where's the police report?" And you're like, "Well, they wouldn't take one." And then you're in this catch-22, and then the insurance companies, they get forced to cover things, and then they leave the marketplace like they're leaving Florida. Anyway, these are bigger topics than I could even hope to tackle here, at least today. But okay, so that was pretty clear as to the why. So now we're in Texas. You're building back up again, and we're making these robots. And we have the Seraphim. Are you making any other models? Like almost daily on the news, you see almost like these dog-looking robots. They've got 4 legs. It looks like they've got. I mean, have you ever seen the TV show on Epix, which is now MGM Plus? They have a remake of War of the Worlds. It's not a very good show. It's sort of it feels a lot like The Walking Dead, which feels a lot like The Last of Us, and each one starts just getting more dull than the other. But one of the things is that the aliens who are certainly here, they have these sort of like dog-looking robots, which were obviously designed based on real designs, and I saw today that there were police officers, and obviously they're training, or testing. But the dog robots. Do you make like any other robots besides the humanoid?
Yeah, so I have an autonomous drone. If you register for the website, I'll plug my website here,
Yeah, of course.
far-corp.com, far-corp.com. You can see a patent pending called we call it Wraith. Basically, it's a VTOL autonomous, which means vertical takeoff and landing autonomous drone. Basically, it's got a 360 camera on it, and it's got some capabilities in the patent, which include cloaking, basically. So.
A bird of prey. A Klingon bird of prey there.
Yeah, exactly. So I have some technology that can, basically within visual range hide stuff, basically. And that's a side story, but I won't get too much into that. But for the most part, the Wraith is an autonomous drone. It could be, there's various form factors on it. There's a larger one and a smaller one, different sizes, basically. But for the most part, they could be used to, for example, survey airports for, damages to runway, missing light bulbs, stuff like that. Surveillance. It could be used for, drone countermeasures. Again, I'm worried about swarm technology. It could counter swarm and stuff like that. What else is there?
What is swarm technology?
So swarm technology, I think. I think it's important for listeners to know that swarm technology is basically, I want to say, multiple autonomous, specifically mostly aerial, but it could be marine or space or whatnot. Just picture a swarm of bees, basically, but imagine these being autonomous platforms that can navigate around obstacles and get to the objective, whatever that may be. I really believe that swarm technology has made the personal firearm or the small arms obsolete. I think a good enough swarm technology could literally take out a platoon with rifles and stuff like that without counter drone defenses. And I think the counter drone defenses we have are very weak right now.
Well, Ant-Man would agree. So what kind of weaponage, what kind of arsenal would the drone have? I mean, I guess anything?
So yeah, the patent is available on Google Patents. You see it on there. It's published now. So as far as what weapons platform, there is a missile capability on it. Depends on what missile or whatever, and a minigun on top, basically for the weapons platform. But it doesn't always have to have weapons. It could just be for civilian use or for commercial private use or whatnot. But the capabilities of the Wraith are phenomenal. Again, I'm more bullish towards bipedal locomotion because I want them to use tools that are already innovated for humans or people. And I'm very bullish about aerial platforms. I'm less bullish about quadrupeds, wheels, treads, and stuff like that. I think humans are the most significant land-based thing on Earth, basically. Again, I mentioned this before, unlike a shark in water or whatnot, but we have the most capabilities as far as holding and controlling tools, moving around or walking upright or whatnot. I think
What about
quadrupeds have
aquatic?
a limited. Say again.
What about aquatic?
Aquatic, shark. I think the sharks do better than us in the water.
No. I mean, can you? Are you working on making any aquatics?
Yeah. So again, I'll allude to some of the technology that the simulation technology and stuff like that can be done space wise, marine wise, land wise, aquatic wise, submarine, above ground or whatnot.
Are you Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne?
Say it again.
Are you Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne?
Oh gosh, I would say I'm halfway between Tony Stark and Captain America. So
okay, there you go.
Yeah,
fair enough.
But for the most part, the simulation technology is form collaboration. I think most of the stuff I focus on is not human controlled. I want to say they're in the loop. Humans are in the loop in control, but they're not. I'm not making aerial platforms where humans fly in. So there's a remote control, and as far as switches and stuff like that that'll engage or disengage or not engage. Basically, humans will always be in the loop. That's a really important thing I need to do. I need to emphasize is part of the fear of the super intelligence phobias or these fear mongers is they don't understand not only how to create a super intelligent artificial general intelligence or even a decent AI as far as I'm concerned, but they can't control them. And if you always have to, when you design them, you always have to have a fail-safe in them, such as locking them in a simulator, observing them in a simulator, and have humans watch and inspect them and just cater them, basically. Again, they're still going to the whole, like, oh, you hit a button, it's going to learn everything, it's going to kill us all. That is the biggest logical fallacy in science. PhDs should know better than this. And all these PhDs there's so many PhDs that are huge fear mongers.
Well, let's step back from the fear mongering, and let's presume that you are correct, that these things are a long way away from learning that, but they can learn the tasks that they're trained to do, and as long as you don't train them to, eviscerate us, they will not, or at least the white hats. What applications other than, I mean, obviously the ones we're talking about sound like they could be warfare or policing even, or counterterrorism, security. What about space? A lot of people, your friend of mine, Elon Musk, and mine, because I want to be a space magistrate, and a space magistrate needs its space marshals, and its space marshals maybe might have to be Seraphim. I don't know. That could be something here. But is there a way to train either, your existing models, prototypes, whatever words are appropriate, or to build models that can, function in space, repair satellites, work on space stations, but more importantly, help to build and prepare those forward bases, those living habitats on the moon, Mars, where, all the places that the dreamers are trying to get us to, that it's going to be really hard for people to build things. And everyone tells me that 3D printers can do this, that, and the other thing. But I mean, at some point, the 3D printers can print something, but they can't put something anywhere. And someone's or something's going to need to put things in a certain place. You can't just have the 3D printer spitting out domes and just hoping they all land in the right place, unless I really misunderstand 3D printers. Is this something you're looking at as maybe applications in space commerce?
So my long-term vision is I don't believe that humans belong in space. I mean, not necessarily like on a planet, but I don't think we're genetically or physically capable of being in space for an extended period of time. Not only the isolation, but the risk of the hazards of space, basically. Whether you get motion sickness a lot. Astronauts are perpetually taking motion sickness medicine.
Right.
Your
muscles deteriorate, your bones.
Yeah, the muscle atrophy, the bone atrophy. We need gravity to thrive. And the great part about having an autonomous robotics platform that is shaped like a human and can fit in human spaces and can fit in, for example, a human spacesuit, for example, is we could send these things out there with zero risk of human life. There's no no risk to human life. Basically, we send them out there. We train them. We train them in the simulator. Train them on the space station. We train them on the space shuttle, whatever. And we train them to build these platforms out there, like on an asteroid or maybe Mars or the moon. Even I don't know why Elon Musk is going to the moon anyway. Why is he going to the moon? He should go to the moon too. So
He's skipping the middleman. I don't know. He's a disruptor.
I guess so, yeah. but for the most part, I think these things. I think these autonomous systems that I'm making, the Seraphim. I believe they will help us get space-based manufacturing, space-based life support set up, basically for humans to get farther out, basically in space. And not only that, but for resource harvesting out there in the asteroids or whatever, to get some additional, precious metals or whatever, whatever
Right.
we may need out there, basically. But off-planet manufacturing, I do agree with some of that. Maybe some stuff may be better to manufacture off-planet than on-planet, basically.
Okay, so I don't know if you've listened to a lot of the shows or not, but whenever we want to have, an evil country, but we don't want to actually name an evil country, we call it Jeffzikistan. And Jeffzikistan may have an evil despot that may or may not be me. Now, Jeffzikistan is a very powerful country, has a lot of money. It's like Wakanda without morals. If you come here, we're going to absolve you from liability as long as you pay our fees for docking and launching your ships and whatever. And the ruler of Jeffzikistan just might be a James Bond villain, type villain. And so let's just say the mighty ambassador, the emperor of Jeffzikistan sends an envoy to you, the ambassador from Jeffzikistan, and comes to Favis Inc., and says, "Hey, I'd like to buy 1,000 of your Seraphim. We may call them archangels. You don't mind, do you? Is that something that you would or could do?"
No, I'm. Again, there's export controls on technology in America. There's something in the Department of Commerce. They have something called ITAR compliance, and I can't do that, and I wouldn't do that, obviously. But number one, there is export controls on technology.
Scratching that off of my evil plot for foiled. Scratching off my evil plot plans.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So for Jeffzikistan?
Yep, Jeffzikistan.
Mm-hmm. Jeffzikistan. For Jeffzikistan to extract the technology, he would have to come to America to probably become an American citizen. Mm-hmm. And then he would have to try to steal it in a certain way or whatnot. But for the most part, no, I'm invested in this in the long run. I think it's beneficial for America. And if Jeffzikistan is using slave labor or whatever or whatnot, I think we need to.
All my citizens are very happy, just like North Korea. And they'll tell you so in unison in the group dance. So, anyway, enough about Jeffzikistan. So, who do you anticipate your clients are going to be? Do you think it's going to be the U.S. military? Do you think it's going to be police forces? Do you think it'll be fire departments? Do you think it'll be something, maybe I'm too lofty, but maybe it will be, cities will have, and it will have construction and sanitation and routine jobs done by, these robots that can do things 24/7 with very little power. Get to those potholes no one ever gets to. Pick up the garbage timely, 24/7. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm too busy, in the Garden of Doom. Maybe I need to get back into Garden Views and see that maybe there's a garden to be built here.
Yeah, my favorite sectors are manufacturing and agriculture. America really needs manufacturing to come back, and again, these systems are designed to bring back manufacturing back to America. Again, nobody can compete with Chinese slave prison labor or whatnot. And again, the one thing that will set the reverse that gap is basically autonomous systems, AI manufacturing or whatnot, robotics space. That's one thing that we could be and win manufacturing basically. And again, I believe the opposite of war is trade. It's not necessarily peace; it's trade. You want everybody to trade, have good products, good competition, and choices basically. So I think once we have a good manufacturing economy established, and money's flowing. There's jobs and everything. I think a lot of world problems can be avoided. We could make nice products, export them, import other products or whatnot. But for the most part, um, I just want to say that we need manufacturing and specifically agriculture. There's harsh shortage of agricultural workers in America also. So those are the two sectors I want to focus on. Those are my favorite sectors. Defense is more for non-dilutive capital to blitz to a refined prototype and whatnot. So, but manufacturing agriculture number one, I think that could set the precedence for a stronger economy or whatnot. But,
do you mean the manufacture of the robots themselves?
I want to say, for example, let's just say there's a Ford factory and they have automotive painters, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're probably using robots now or whatnot, but still, the person that controls that robot is still a painter. They still have experience as far as mixing paint, the type of paint, the troubleshooting the paint or whatnot. If they control a robot, the chances are they're going to be controlling that robot that they will most likely always have superior knowledge of how to control that robot and tell it how to paint, how to troubleshoot the paint, whether if there's a mistake or whatever for whatnot. So what I mean is manufacturing in the sense that assembly line manufacturing anything that where humans are doing something dangerous, boring, or safety hazards like like carpal tunnels or back injuries, these highly repetitive jobs that kind of take the soul out of a human. Basically, that's what the robots are designed to do. Basically, they're designed to take those jobs. Again, they're not taking away jobs. The people that know how to do those jobs are going to be supervising them, watching them, basically. So the enhancement of these, like for example, automotive painter or whatnot, is going to be phenomenal as far as their power, as far as what they can manufacture, how much they can work, basically. So again, they're controlling the technologies, these robotic systems, Seraphims, that they know the trade already. So they're going to be monitoring. They're not going to be doing the painting themselves, but they're going to be making sure that the robots are doing proper stuff, kind of like a canine handler. A canine handler and his canine, basically. So
Maybe the more rational AI fear, not the singularity, not the Ultron, is that AI will be able to do so many things that it'll take away so many jobs. Now, oftentimes technology, despite the initial fears, creates other economies and other jobs and other networks that it becomes a large boon. And I don't know if you have any thoughts or the answer to this at all, but the people who are no longer working in those industries because the robots can do them better, more efficiently, and in the end cheaper because they can, they last forever or whatever, and they work 24/7, et cetera, et cetera. What employment opportunities replace those for the people who are displaced from those jobs? Not that those jobs are great, but it's what they have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Again, I'm not seeing, and I'm seeing all labor problems in the future coming from leadership, as far as like saying, hey, you know what, we have these robots and we have these employees. What's going to happen is most likely the company should be able to train the say, I don't want to allude to the robotic painter, basically. Even if they're probably most likely painting with robots now, but for the Seraphim or whatnot, I'll just use as an analogy or whatnot. For the most part, the leadership should create a relationship with the specialist, the human specialist, whether whether it's banging metal, running a drill press or whatnot. He should be able to work closely with like 2 or 3 robots that are doing his work, basically, to amplify his clout and his reach. Basically, maybe one robotic painter or handler could handle maybe 15 or 20 robots. You never know, just checking them throughout the day and giving that one painter the power of 15 people, and still keeping to make sure they're okay, because they're going to need maintenance. Obviously, they're going to need maintenance. They're going to need check the let's make sure the software's up to obviously or whatnot. If there's troubleshooting painting, maybe they have trouble with their equipment, or to make sure everything's doing. The leadership in this future economy that's coming up should use the specialties or the skills that the factory has. They should use that existing base to help those people train or handle the robots that are going to be coming in. I don't think necessarily that these people that are so specialized in a field like painter, I can only look at painter. I don't think they're going to lose their job because a robot's going to take them. I think what's going to happen is that painter is going to be able to handle 15 times, 20 times the amount of work, basically. So, and they're going to be using robots, basically. That's what it comes down to, because every factory job is a little bit different. It takes a little bit of special trade or whatnot, training or whatnot, how to operate some of the machines or whatnot. But for the most part, I see in the future, if the leadership's good, the leadership should be able to train their current employees to work with the robots, and I think it'd be at least very amusing in the beginning for the employee. Be very engaging, amusing stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have fun with your friend until you realize it's just a tool. But and also it's Cloud. You're the one with the robot, and everyone else is looking at you just in the typing pool, or well, if there is still typing pools, but in the logistics bay or whatever. Anyway, in IT, they're in IT making sure software runs, but you're actually working a robot. I mean, probably what they all dreamed of doing. Anyway, that's it's and listen, it's not your job to figure out what every other job will be. Your job is to make your company as successful as possible, make the best product possible. I mean, I get all that.
Yeah, you want to give your workers the optimal output they can have, and robotics and AI is the key to that, basically. It doesn't mean for example, the painter is going to be writing code or anything like that. It's going to be more intuitive. That it'll be a lot more simple. Basically, it'll be voice commands and and showing or training. If the painter has to put on a human motion capture suit, then he will, basically. So it's not necessarily about programming a robot. You're just more of a cobot, basically. You're going to be training in a natural human way, basically.
Oh, cobot, that's a new word. Do you think that there'll be robot assembly lines, or there'll be robots building other robots, in other words?
I think that's going to be the case.
And I assume
it will mature to that level.
You mentioned something called ITAR. I vaguely know what it is. It basically means it's a certain trade outside needs to be approved by the authorities. But can you go a little bit more into ITAR is and say what it is?
Yeah, ITAR is international. I think it's like trade of arms, or international trade of arms and regulations. It's under Department of Commerce. But what it basically means is there's certain parts. For example, like I think the training I got from my Department of Commerce was there's certain parts that can be used to make weapons that we don't want used against us. And there was I believe it was it wasn't a solenoid. It was an electronic part that could actually be used. It's used in MRIs, I think, but also it has a dual use. It can be used in MRIs, and it can also be used to create a nuclear reaction in uranium or something, uranium or whatnot. So we have to make sure these parts that can be used against us, which is now almost all. I want to say all electronics now. A lot of electronics can do some damage now. With what you buy on Amazon even today. But some parts we just don't want. We don't want to enable an enemy country or a country that could use weapons against us. And ammunition's obviously, firearms obviously. You can only export them to certain areas, and you have to ask the Department of Commerce for permission to bring certain technologies, physical stuff. I think it's even like blueprints or designs or whatnot. I agree with these things. But ITAR is basically the international. I think it's a regulation, mostly arms related stuff. But there's stuff that you may think are inert or not that cannot be used in a weapon making. But Department of Commerce knows all this stuff. What kind of weapons they're making? For example, I think in Iraq and Iran war, they were using cell phones to detonate bombs or whatnot. So there's certain, I want to say, gyroscopes and accelerometers that have so much precision in them that they could be used in weapons, basically. I think there's some export regulations on those, but for the most part, you usually have to go to the Department of Commerce and say, "Hey, this is what I'm selling, or I'm manufacturing, I'm making. What is my trade status? What is my export control status or year? Export administration regulations." You kind of have to run it by them, which I agree with. I think it's great. I'm glad we have this.
No, I am too, but
I don't.
a little bit's a little
Yeah.
bit bullshit, and I know this because I had a prior show and it dealt with the situation in Ukraine, and there's certain drones that you can't send to Ukraine without there being approval, but there's others that you can. There's and the Ukrainians have figured out how to turn those into basically military grade drones. But they're basically the same things you can buy for your 7-year-old at a toy store online or whatever. But I guess the point is that at least near term, this will be America first. I mean, Americans will be building these. Will be American factories, American technology for the near term.
I have absolutely no plans on ever exporting this technology out of the country.
Okay, now
So this is America first stuff. Yeah.
Let's go back to Jeffzikistan. But this time, Jeffzikistan has invaded its neighboring country, Nisistan. Everybody loves Nisistan. And Jeffzikistan just woke up grumpy and invaded. How far are we from being able to send, I don't know, a brigade or a company of Favis Seraphim to kick, to basically do it took Desert Storm to get Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait, that you have Operation Nisistan Freedom using robot infantry?
Yeah, in my humble opinion, for robot infantry, the bipedal stuff.
Don't limit it to infantry just because I used the bad word. It can be the air infantry.
Yeah, exactly. For the aerial platforms, it depends on how much you can manufacture, how quickly. Basically, that's based upon manufacturing capacity. Same thing with for example, bipedal robot infantry. I think this is going to happen internationally. I think it's going to happen. We might as well just make the best ones to begin with.
Okay.
But I would say. I would say on maybe 25 acres of land, I could churn out 200-300 with a well-fitted facility. I could churn out maybe 200-300 robot infantry in a week, basically.
And would they have to be trained, or would, if one robot trained, that somehow the information could be shared to all of them?
Yeah. So let's say Jeffzikistan. Jeffzikistan?
Yeah, that's fine. Jeffzikistan.
Let's just say Jeffzikistan is on the opposite side of the planet as me, and we're on Earth, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, and say you need 300 robotic soldiers. What could happen if you know the area of operations? When you package up the Seraphim or the robotic soldiers into a C-130, by the time they get to Jeffzikistan from Travis Air Force Base, their logic is already exported and the AI model is already done. So that's how quickly you can program them.
So they do have a shared, intranet system or whatever it is, a neural network of sorts that once one learns the.
Yes. So most of the heavy compute's done in a cluster. In intranet, and I don't put this thing on the internet for obvious reasons. But most of the heavy compute AI models. So say for example, Jeffzikistan is the size of Texas, basically. What are the long-term objectives for holding or defending or attacking Jeffzikistan or whatnot? So if you have that operational data as far as where something's located at, and you can run how much you want to expend as far as infantry or whatnot, and there will obviously be an aerial and reconnaissance factor on this. So for the most part, it could learn a certain area depending on how much you focus on. But if you have enough people training them and enough robots, and enough manufacturing, by the time they get shipped or they fly from the United States to Jeffzikistan on the opposite side of the planet, their mission could already be plotted and all scenarios could be factored in for whatever they could throw at the robotic soldiers, basically. So the AI models brought from the cluster onto the system, whatever. I don't want to talk too much about the system, but for the most part, the system is not doing the math or the compute in real time. Not all of it's done in real time. The AI models are exported to the actual system, for example, robot infantry or Wraith model or whatnot. And then, so even if you're to capture a human robotic soldier or Wraith, you still don't know how to program it because you're missing the training module basically, or the actual simulation technology, which takes a significant amount of resources to create and stuff like that. So, and know-how too. Know-how is number one also. So that'd be the summary. If Jeffzikistan was attacking another country or whatnot, then we could send however fast you could drop. You could be airborne. They could drop them out of AC-130 or Halo drop them, whatever, and then Jeffzikistan will have some robotic soldiers in the area or whatnot. So
that sounds so much fun. For all the wrong reasons. How many patents do you have? How many patents do you have pending, and how many are you working on without giving away any details?
Yeah, so there's a lot in the mix. It takes time and resources to file the patents. But obviously, as I start manufacturing, I'll be able to file more patents and have more resources to file them or whatnot. The primary patent, my favorite one, and the one I want that I think it will have the most world-changing impact is the Seraphim, and that's what my life's work and energy is being focused on at this current time. The second one is the Wraith. If you register the website, you can see the Wraith. It's a beautiful drone, basically. It could be used for anything we talked about earlier. I also have an autonomous driving patent. I think I have a better training mechanism and a better philosophy than Tesla does. I've used Tesla's autonomous driving systems before, but what the autonomous driving patent does is it enhances human vision on top of the AI training or whatnot. So you literally have a full-on heads-up display from, I want to say, 180 degrees left and right and forward to see where your GPS is at instead of looking at your phone or whatnot. So you can see in snow, cloudy, ice, dark, or whatever, you could probably drive without headlights on if you wanted to. Okay. So the computer vision enhancement that the AI already sees is actually broadcast on the screen. So the computer will show the driver what it sees, which is thermal, infrared, or whatnot, not only RGB or whatnot, but it can save a lot of lives as far as the road and visibility, basically. And I figure if you're already using the autonomous driving sensors to drive, you might as well enhance what the human can see when they're driving the car, which is really important. So, yes. So that's another patent. I have other patents related to prosthetics and stuff like that too. So because the Seraphim is so similar to human anatomy that people with missing arms or legs can use for the technology and stuff like that. So,
wow. It's like it's getting close to Altered Carbon. That's another sci-fi series.
Oh, that's a great series. Altered Carbon is great.
Yeah, books are better than the shows, but
good entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Say it
again. The books are better than the show. Season 1 was pretty good. Season 2 was horrible, and therefore, of course, led to no season 3. But anyway, I know that you're doing a bunch of podcasts. And I know you have a podcast, so obviously, it's something that you want to tell the world. Did we get it during the course of our conversation? And if not, please, whatever I didn't ask you, whether I should have, or whatever message you want to get out there, this is your time.
Yes, I think I really want to say this is the most important thing I've emphasized multiple. Don't be scared of the future. Don't be scared. Don't be scared of the future, and don't be scared of AI. AI is something we must embrace, and AI is something that will benefit everybody if it's done properly. And AI is also our best defense against rogue AI or bad AI, basically. We just have to have the best AI to protect ourselves from bad AI. Rogue AI, bad AI is going to happen. It's going to happen. So that's why we must allow innovators to innovate, and we must support innovators that have alignment with our values, basically. AI alignment is huge now, but for the most part, I think a lot of people are bringing out unnecessary fear. I don't think we have anything to fear about. I think humans will always be superior over any synthetic electronic robot, whatever. Humans will always be superior. We're not going to be AI's pets. I don't believe that, not for one bit. I believe that AI will, at the most part, be our pets and companions and friends, basically. So. And
bodyguards. All right. Yeah. If you want to be followed, or if people want to support your work or find out more, how would they?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I'm pre-pledging right now an equity-based crowd fund. We're going to run this maybe in the next several months or whatnot. Equity-based crowdfunding is kind of like what Kickstarter was, but instead of just getting a product, what you're going to do is you're going to get equity in the company. The company has a high valuation because of the patents granted and patents pending. So there's an extremely high valuation. I won't say it on there right now, but in the next year and a half or 2 years, we're going to be manufacturing these things. And if you want to visit the website, I highly recommend you join our newsletter. That's far-corp.com. So far-corp.com, far-corp.com. That's a primary website. Sign up for the newsletter, and then you'll be the first to know when the crowdfunding campaign happens. I also have a show mostly around futurism that work that is mostly about a little bit mostly technology and technology politics and stuff that's happening behind that. That's MrRobots.com, MISTER, not MR, MISTER, robots.com, MrRobots.com. And my Twitter handle, I like Twitter now that Elon Musk took it over and there's not a bunch of bots and attack bots that are saying that attack you for saying that. Twitter seems to be a lot better now. It's a lot more calmer. So I encourage people to go on Twitter. And also, my name on Twitter is @Steve, STEVE, and my last name is pronounced Favis, but it looks like Favis or Favis, FAVIS, @Steve, FAVIS, or @Steve Favis. That's my Twitter handle. Ping me on Twitter, and then you can also ping me on the corporate website. But again, I highly encourage people to actually, who are investing, please support American innovators. There's a lot of technology that is really important that is not being funded right now, or there is shortages in innovation. The amount of patents that are filed now are less than what's coming out of China.
Well, is there a minimum or maximum investment?
Say it again.
Is there?
For a $500 investment can get you stock in a company that has a very, very high valuation, basically. There's a cap of $5 million on the investment, so you have to get in before that $5 million is hit. Beyond $5 million, we have to cap it at $5 million because of SEC regulations for equity-based crowdfunding. Right. We're targeting $5 million as a cap, but after that cap is done, we can't take any more investment. So $5 million is the initial raise. I consider it a Series A raise. Most of the technology know-how is most of the 3D models are mostly done. It's just a matter of getting the equipment, which we're close to getting the equipment as far as relocating it.
Well, I guess I probably should have been more specific. What is the minimum? I mean, can someone invest with $50, $100, or does it have to be $10,000?
I believe so. The website, I believe so. Somebody can do that based upon a certain valuation. There's still some SEC regulation stuff I have to do before we launch, but I ideally want to pre-pledge it. I want to pre-pledge it up to $5 million. After we have that pre-pledge of $5 million, I'll just notify everybody. And on the first day, we should hit our goal of $5 million. And not only that, but what you're investing in here is literally world-changing technology. I mean, I can't underemphasize the importance of what I'm doing, the work I'm doing, and how it's going to affect everybody, basically, especially everybody in America for the better, basically. So, again, these are designed to compete against Chinese slave and prison labor. Not only that, it's going to give us the ability to spend more time with our family and loved ones. And not only that, it's going to get rid of repetitive work injuries, stress, and so much more. I mean, and the logic behind my patent, number one, the logic behind my patent is timeless. This is the way all robotic systems are going to be trained as far as we can tell. There will always be there will always be a simulation element in training. If you're not using simulation in training a robot, then you are way behind. There will always be a simulation element, basically. And there's always going to be that checking of the simulator and stuff like that. So for the most part, I really, really appreciate the support. If you can contribute to the website as far as your newsletter sign up or whatnot. But again, after we hit $5 million, I can't take any further investments without doing a traditional raise or whatnot. So the benefits of equity-based crowdfunding, you could pledge a small amount and get a high return on within any time. You can trade the stock out as much as you want, but it is SEC regulated. And again, it's instead of pledging for like something, you're actually getting stock in a company. And remember, this is the original purpose of the stock market. Today, the stock market is about trading. Robots are trading for you right now. Robots are trading. But what started Edison and all these other American innovations, this huge innovation phase in America, is these inventors were just able to go to the stock market and say, hey, this is what I make. I need this sort of amount of money. And they invest in them. They don't trade them. They invest in them. And investing is investment that will return, not only return investment, but it's not just trading based upon to make money off of the trade. This is investing in a company and invest in the mission of what we're doing. Basically, this is really important. This is a huge differentiation now. So the equity-based regulation crowdfunding gives that ability for the innovator to approach crowds and say, hey, this is the new stock market for me to get to this milestone or whatever, basically. So,
all right, well, very cool.
It's about investing in. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, this is my time where I have to remind the audience that this is not a financial advice show, and you should not rely on me even the guests for financial advice. And you should always talk to your own financial advisors, your legal and tax advisors, before you make any financial decisions. But very cool, very interesting conversation. I hope you had some fun. I tried to make it a little bit light, but to get the both the garden view, the legal and the business, and the sort of the mundane stuff. But still probably not part of the average listener's day-to-day life, if ever, and also some of the fun stuff. But you seem to roll with it just fine, and sounds great. We've all seen robots in movies and stuff, and then, I think that we as humans were sort of pre-trained to be optimistic about this as it is. So best of luck to you. I have subscribed while you were talking. So I'm looking forward to getting that newsletter, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show, and good luck with the task. Just not good luck getting to the 5 million before I get a chance to put a couple kitties in the bucket. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time and sharing your story and these really incredible things that feel like they're out of science fiction, but they're right here. It's science.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I didn't innovate all this stuff. This is just technologies that already existed. I just put them together in this manner, basically, and filed a patent for it. Basically, these are all, you put them together and you get this stuff, basically, the humanoid and stuff like that. So, thank you for signing up for the website. Again, I really appreciate it. People just sign up for the newsletter, or at least just join me on Twitter and join me on some of the interesting discussion that goes on there. So.
All right.
But thanks for having me, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
That was my pleasure. Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. All right, folks, thanks for listening. Hope that you enjoyed this. I think I'm going to put it on Garden of Doom, just because the length is more Garden of Doom length. But I'd say 50-50 both places. Give us a rating, give us a review, write something nice. But more importantly than anything else, tell your friends. This is a show that sort of defies a genre. So if you tell your friends, those personal referrals are more important than anything else. Anyway, thank you for listening, and you'll hear from us again next time in the garden.
Maybe I'm colorblind. Don't know where I lost the colors. I only see black and white. Come to think of it, but it all comes back when the moon gets low, dancing in the afterglow. And when the room starts spinning and my eyes are closed, feeling like I'm not alone. 'Cause there's a ghost in the machine. I only see you when I go to sleep. I build a wall under the sheets, and when I'm dreaming that you're here with me, I close my eyes, keep us alive. Someone please turn off the lights. 'Cause there's a ghost in the machine. under the sheets. And when I'm dreaming that you're here with me,